I'm deeply humbled to have been invited to this roundtable conference titled Dare to Lead. I thank Preeta, Kaushal, Sampath, Dun & Bradstreet for giving me the opportunity to reflect with you about women in leadership. I am also charmed by the title, Dare to Lead. We don't live in the world we wish for, and therefore we need change. We gather together here to deliberate, and this in itself is a way forward to change. If women are empowered to do more, surely we will be able to build this society closer to the heart's desire. The subject today is Dare to Lead. And as I said earlier, the basic barrier in leadership is the barrier in the mind. Women must shed that barrier. What are the 7 key challenges which women face? 7 challenges. So first is a lack of confidence and innate diffidence, which may stem from, will I be able to do it, which everybody faces, to what will people think, which nobody else faces. The male CEO does not consider what other people will think. He goes ahead because he has the confidence to do so. At this stage, before I spell out the remaining 6 challenges, I want to explain that leadership is leadership. There is nothing very, very different in the challenges of leadership. And subordinates are looking for a leader who will lead the way. If there's a fire in this room just now and we run out, we won't see whether it's a man giving the orders or a woman giving the orders. All we need to know is that the orders are very clear and explicit and tell us precisely what we have to do. So in each situation, we have to think that there is nothing essentially very startlingly different. But the problem lies in the mind of women who are not able to break these barriers. Now, communications and psychology study traits, skills, style, emotional intelligence of leaders based on their genders. And as I said, there's situational leadership if there's a fire in the room. But what if there's not a fire in the room, but you still think of your sales targets as fires, you still think of the expansion of, say, Dun & Bradstreet as a fire and go ahead. So, other than confidence, your own confidence in your ability to lead, you must have, secondly, impact and influence in the workplace. You must have an effective networking strategy. You must be able to manage, thirdly, conflict and risk. Conflict should not end up as a face-off, but conflict should be managed in such a way that it leads to optimum benefit for the concern or the company you head. You must be able to promote yourself. Now, promoting yourself is not the ugly word you think it is. It's important. It's important to meet people. It's important to get people to know the kind of work you are doing and the kind of work your company is doing. And in the process, project both yourself and your company. A thing most women feel shy in doing, but it's nothing like that. It's the only way you need to get ahead, and you need your company to get ahead. You must also have work-life balance. You will be surprised that in America, Hillary Clinton was not very popular because most Americans are looking for an apple pie mom. So no one, let's face it, no one likes a very, very aggressive woman. No one also likes a woman who's only involved with herself. And also the woman who's only involved with herself doesn't like herself. So what's the answer? The answer is to have a life, to have friends, to have a home which is beautiful and comfortable, which you like. And as I keep telling everybody, the ultimate answer is to having a dog who will always love you because no one else will. So you must be very, very sure of these things. Now, to come back to being serious, you also need to have a vision of your concern and of your own career path, and you need to have targetable, monitorable goals of how you're going to reach there. So where does your confidence come from? Now let's talk about confidence or the lack of it. Where does your self-esteem come from? And I'm addressing every single woman in this room. It comes from, firstly, your presence. You see, your presence in a room should have an impact. Should speak, your clothes should speak about the person you are. You can dress in a very outer way. If I came to the RBI pink striped pants, I wouldn't be able to be very successful in a banking conclave. But if I come in a sari, which is what I am expected to do, and look like a senior executive, more importantly, talk like a senior executive, which means I have very clearly formulated goals which I can enunciate, explain, elucidate, then definitely I am looked forward to with respect. So part of your confidence comes from this presence which you have. Secondly, it comes from your position, it comes from your authority. Now, your authority doesn't mean that if you are executive director, you can generally come in all guns blazing and sort of try to shove things down people's throats. Believe me, dominance doesn't always work. It may work at some points when it's required, but not all the time. You can't sort of sit and peep on people and expect them to execute your orders. But you can impress upon them the importance of those orders for the larger organizational goal. So what you have to appeal to and explain is where we are going with this order, how far is this going to take this forward. So your authority will come from your official designation, from what you know, and what you know will come from what you have achieved earlier in your life and what you have experienced. And these two together, your authority and presence, will determine the impact which you have on those whom you are leading. And you will not be able to lead until unless you have a complete buy-in from your followers. So the first thing you sell is you sell yourself to those whom you lead. They have to respect you, they have to have confidence in your leadership, and that in itself will buttress your own confidence and your own leadership. Now, most women have a confidence problem. Most men think that they can do a job, even when they jolly well can't. Most women are not sure of their ability to execute a job, even when they can, and they do. So, to command respect, you need to relate with others, and you need to be fully present in a given situation. I mean, if you are handling a company meeting, you are handling a company meeting. By that I mean you do not bring your home to the office, and by work-life balance I also mean that you do not take the office home. You have to be attentive and you need to have a rapport with people. Now, you have to have an impact for the future also. It's not necessary that all that I did in the past I can replicate in the future. I have to have the ability to understand which particular sort of leadership is going to work today. And you have to understand that there are certain mindsets which people have. For example, if it's a man, you feel, oh, he is very authoritative, he is so commanding. I feel so sort of protected when he's there and when he issues the orders. If it's a woman who chooses to adopt the same style which the man has adopted, she thinks he's very successful, also she feels very protected when he issues the orders. You know how people will dismiss her? They'll say, this woman is very bossy. She is extremely pushy. I cannot stand that obnoxious woman. So what you also need is a network of reliable followers who will help to carry your message through. You see, and you have to clearly understand that at work there are certain things which you are not. And I'm going to spell out these 4 things for all the women working here, for all the women present here, and all the women whom I hope to reach through this interview. 4 things which you are not. A, you are not a seductress. Let's be very, very clear. You may think that you're the most beautiful woman in the world. I'm sure that you are. And your mirror also may be telling you so. But at work, you are not a seductress. Flapping your eyelashes will not do. It's work that is required. 2, you are not a mother. You are nobody's mother. Nobody is going to look at you as mother material. I know that the director of M in that serial 007, that very successful Bond movies which we've all seen, is known as mother. But you are not mother. You are a competent professional. You know your job and you have come here to do your job. So you are not mother. You are also not Bordi. You are not sister. And you are nobody's pet. Nobody is going to say, oh, no, 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 Preeta, this is the way we do it. I'm going to teach you how to do it. You are not going to either be patronized by anybody or extend patronage. And the fourth and the last thing which you're not is, you're not an iron maiden. Now, it's very difficult to not be either of these four things, but these are the four things you have to consciously put in your mind that you're not. By iron maiden, I mean, if somebody comes to you, say a clerical assistant, and says that, madam, I cannot format your speech because I have a parent-teacher meeting to attend. You don't go ballistic and say, no, no, Preeta is coming from Dun and Bradstreet, you bloody well do my speech. Or you can cut out that expletive, you do my speech. No, that's not on. You have to understand that that person has an overwhelming need at the moment. Similarly, if somebody needs to take leave because the mother-in-law is sick, then you have to understand that these are societal patterns and you can't be iron maiden at all times and say work and nothing else. So these are the four things which you are not at work. I'm going to repeat. You're not a seductress, you're not a woman, you're not a sister, you're not a pet of anybody, you're not an iron maiden. So who are you? Who exactly are you? Well, you're just a normal person with a normal job, learning about your job as you go along and trying to do it in the best way possible and giving your 100% to your job. Finally, that women must empower themselves and they should have, men and women both require quality education, equal work opportunities, but yes, women do require and have certain special needs at specific times in their life. And I'm not only talking about the childbearing years, even at a later stage when women are going through menopause and other things, they require a lot of support from the organization. And in terms of flexi working time, in terms of leave, they perhaps require more support than men. It can pay off in the long run. So these changes the organization should be willing to make to be supportive of women so that women can also forge ahead and hold up half the sky which is rightfully theirs. Once again, I thank Preeta, I thank Mr. Kampath and Dun & Bradstreet for the opportunity and for having me here. I thank the organizers of this conference. I wish your deliberations all success, because your deliberations will have an impact far beyond immediate issue. Thank you very much once again.